At 26, her steps were quiet, careful, practiced from years of making herself small. Every morning before the sun rose, she unlocked the side entrance and slipped inside the vast marble halls, tying her hair back, rolling up the sleeves of her faded sweater, preparing herself for another day of work that no one would ever notice. The house was enormous. Chandeliers hung like frozen stars above polished floors. The walls were lined with art that cost more than she would earn in a lifetime. Every room smelled faintly of lemon polish and expensive wood. She cleaned each surface with devotion, not because anyone praised her for it, but because she believed work done with care mattered, even if no one ever said thank you. She dusted the long dining table where powerful people once sat discussing deals that shaped cities. She wiped fingerprints from glass railings that overlooked a garden larger than the neighborhood she grew up in. She vacuumed carpets so soft her feet almost sank into them, even through her worn shoes. This mansion belonged to a self-made millionaire, a man whose name appeared in magazines and business articles, a man admired for his success and discipline. To him, she barely existed. Sometimes he passed her in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, eyes focused somewhere far beyond her. When he did notice her, it was only enough to offer a brief nod or a distracted thank you, words spoken out of habit, not recognition. She was part of the background, like the walls or the furniture, necessary but unseen. She did not blame him. Men like him lived in a different world, a world where money erased discomfort and people like her blended into silence. Still, there were moments, small and foolish moments, when she wondered what it would be like if someone truly looked at her. Not through her uniform, not through her job, but at her. After her shift ended, she rode the bus back to her tiny apartment on the edge of the city. The place was small, cramped, and always a little cold, but it was hers. She counted every dollar carefully. Rent came first, then utilities, then groceries. Whatever was left was sent to her mother, who worked long hours cleaning offices, and to her younger brother, who dreamed of finishing school and becoming someone more. There was never enough, but she made it work. She always did. At night she sat by the window, the city humming below, eating simple meals and stretching them over days. Sometimes she baked bread using borrowed recipes, filling the apartment with warmth and comfort she could not afford elsewhere. Baking was the one thing that made her forget how invisible she felt. In the quiet, with flour on her hands and hope rising with the dough, she imagined a different life. Not a rich one, just a life where she mattered. She was kind in ways that never made headlines. She left food for the elderly woman downstairs. She smiled at strangers who looked like they needed it. She listened when others spoke, even when no one listened to her. There was dignity in the way she carried herself, even when the world offered her none in return. But loneliness followed her everywhere. In crowded buses, in loud streets, in the echoing halls of the mansion where her reflection blurred in mirrors she polished every day. She existed in the spaces between attention, between importance, between being chosen and being overlooked. Sometimes, while scrubbing a countertop or folding crisp white towels, she felt a quiet ache in her chest. Not envy, not anger, just a longing so gentle it almost hurt more. The longing to be seen once, truly seen. To have someone pause, look up, and recognize that she was more than a pair of working hands. She did not know yet that the world was already moving toward that moment, that a single night would unravel years of invisibility, that humiliation and hope would collide in a place she never imagined she belonged. For now, she was just the maid, quiet, hardworking, unnoticed. And waiting. The message arrived late at night, while she was sitting on the edge of her bed, holding her phone with both hands. The glow of the screen lit up the small room, as if it carried a promise meant only for her. His name was Ryan, and he had appeared on her phone 2 weeks ago through a dating app she downloaded on a lonely evening. She almost deleted it again. At first, she did not believe anyone like him would notice her. His words were gentle. He asked about her day. He listened. He said she sounded kind. No man had ever said that to her before. Every night after work, she read his messages, slowly afraid they might disappear if she rushed. He told her she deserved more than exhaustion and silence. He told her she should go somewhere nice for once. She smiled alone in her room, imagining what it would be like to sit across from someone who wanted to know her. When he asked her out, she stared at the phone for a long time. Her heart beat so loud, she was sure the neighbors could hear it. She almost said no. Fear whispered that she did not belong in that world. But hope was louder. They chose an elegant restaurant downtown, a place she had only seen through windows while passing by on the bus. She searched it online, and her breath caught when she saw the prices. Still, she said yes, because sometimes hope is reckless. The next morning, she counted her money carefully. $5. That was all she had after rent and sending money home. $5 folded neatly in her wallet like a fragile secret. She told herself she would not need it. She told herself he would pay. She told herself it was just dinner. She borrowed a simple dress from a friend, green and soft and worn with love. She washed her hair slowly, as if time itself mattered tonight. In the mirror, she barely recognized the woman looking back. Not because she looked different, but because she looked hopeful. All day at work, her hands shook as she cleaned. She polished silver she would never own. She wiped glass she would never sit behind. The mansion felt colder than usual, larger, as if reminding her of where she stood. Her employer passed her in the hallway, speaking into his phone. He did not see her. She did not expect him to. Still, something inside her ached. As evening came, she changed quickly and left before doubt could catch her. The city lights blurred as she drove. Her chest felt tight with anticipation and fear. She whispered to herself that tonight could be different. The restaurant stood glowing like a dream. She was not sure she was allowed to enter. People stepped inside dressed in confidence and wealth. She paused at the door, breathing deeply. Then she walked in. A waiter looked at her briefly, then led her to a table near the window. White cloth, soft lighting, a single rose. Her hands trembled as she sat down. Time moved slowly. Too slowly. She checked her phone again and again. No message. No explanation. The room filled with laughter and conversation around her. She felt every glance, every pause, every silence. Minutes passed. Then more. Her hope began to crumble quietly. She did not know yet that someone was watching from across the room. She did not know her life was already shifting beneath her feet. She only knew that she was sitting there with $5 in her wallet and a heart that had dared to believe. And belief can be the most dangerous thing of all. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should. Every second felt like it was pressing against her chest. She sat very still, afraid that if she moved even a little, she would draw more attention. 8 o'clock passed. Then 8:10. Then 8:20. She smiled politely when the waiter returned, asking if she would like to order. Her voice sounded smaller than she wanted as she said she was waiting for someone. The waiter nodded, but his eyes lingered just long enough to make her feel exposed. Around her, couples leaned toward each other, laughing softly. Glasses clinked. Silverware scraped against plates. Perfume and confidence filled the air. She checked her phone again. Nothing. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the table. She reminded herself to breathe. Maybe he was late. Maybe traffic. Maybe something came up. At 8:30, the whispers started. Not loud enough to hear clearly, but sharp enough to feel. She sensed eyes moving toward her, then away. Judging. Measuring. Her back straightened the way it always did when she felt small. As if dignity could be armor. She reached into her purse and felt the folded bills. $5. It suddenly felt heavier than gold. It was not meant to pay for dinner. It was meant to remind her who she was, where she came from, how easily she could be broken. The waiter returned again. This time his smile was thinner. He asked if she would like water or bread. She nodded and thanked him quietly. When 8:45 arrived, her phone vibrated. Her heart leapt so violently she almost dropped it. She opened the message with shaking hands. "Sorry, I do not think this will work. You are not really what I am looking for. Good luck." That was all. No explanation. No apology. No kindness. The words burned into her eyes. Her throat tightened. Her chest hollowed out. She sat frozen. The world around her kept moving as if nothing had happened. As if she had not just been erased. Tears filled her eyes, and she blinked, rapidly refusing to let them fall. She would not cry here. Not in front of strangers. Not in a place that already made her feel like she did not belong. She picked up her purse slowly. Her hands trembled as she stood. Her chair scraped softly against the floor. It sounded too loud. She could feel the humiliation crawling over her skin. Like every glance knew. Like everyone could see the message on her screen. See the rejection written across her face. She walked toward the door with her head down. Each step felt heavier than the last. Her chest ached with a familiar pain. The pain of being overlooked. Dismissed. Unchosen. She wondered why she had believed this could be different. Why she had allowed herself to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope made the fall hurt more. Her reflection passed in a mirror near the entrance. For a moment she stopped, looking at the woman staring back. She looked tired. She looked brave. She looked like someone who had tried. That was when she felt it. Not a touch. Not a sound. A presence. Across the room in a quiet corner, a man had been watching. He had arrived alone after a canceled meeting. A powerful self-made millionaire, surrounded by contracts and silence. At first, he had not recognized her. The dress. The posture. The vulnerability. Then it struck him. The way she held herself. The way she wiped tears quickly, as if hiding them from the world. It was the maid from his house. The woman who cleaned his floors before sunrise. The woman who moved through his life unseen. He watched her read the message. Saw her shoulders collapse just slightly. Saw the moment something inside her broke. Something inside him did too. For the first time in years, he felt anger that had nothing to do with business. For the first time he felt guilt sharp and undeniable. She reached the door, ready to disappear again. And in that moment he stood. Because if he let her walk out, he knew he would never forgive himself. And she did not know it yet. But the night that was meant to destroy her was about to change everything. He stood without thinking. The chair moved back behind him. The papers on the table were forgotten. For a moment he simply watched her. The way she held her purse close to her chest. The way her shoulders were tight like she expected another blow. This was not the woman he knew from his house. Not the quiet figure who cleaned before dawn. Not the voice that answered yes sir without looking up. This woman was hurt. This woman was breaking. He felt something twist deep inside his chest. A feeling he had not allowed himself to feel in years. Guilt. Sharp and heavy. For 4 years she had existed in his home. For 4 years she had passed him in hallways. For 4 years he had never once wondered who she was when she left his gates. Now she was standing in front of strangers. Humiliated. Alone. With nowhere to hide. He took a step forward. Then another. Each step felt like crossing an invisible line. Employer and employee. Power and silence. Wealth and survival. He saw her reach the door, saw her hesitate, as if she needed one more second to gather herself. He knew that pause. He had seen it in mirrors late at night. The pause before pretending everything was fine. He spoke her name softly, almost afraid it would vanish in the air. She froze. Slowly she turned. Her eyes met his and widened. Shock replaced pain for a brief moment. She had never seen him look like this. No phone. No distance. No armor. Just a man standing in front of her, looking at her as if she mattered. Her instinct was to step back, to apologize, to explain, to disappear. "I was just leaving," she said quietly. The words cut deeper than he expected. "Please stay," he said. "Just for a moment." She looked around, aware of the room, of the eyes, of the weight of being seen like this. Her cheeks burned. Her hands trembled. "I did not want you to see this," she whispered. That sentence shattered something inside him. He realized then that he had seen her every day and never really looked. He gestured to the table. "Please sit. Not as my employee. Just as yourself." She hesitated. Every part of her knew this was dangerous. This was crossing lines she had survived by respecting. But something in his voice was different. Not commanding. Not distant. Human. She nodded slowly and returned to the table. Her movements careful, as if she expected the moment to disappear. He sat across from her. The space between them felt charged. For a few seconds neither spoke. He noticed the way her hands were clenched, the faint red in her eyes, the strength it took for her not to cry. "I saw what happened," he said gently. "I am sorry." No one had ever apologized to her for hurting her heart. She swallowed hard. "It is nothing," she said. "I should have known better." "No," he said firmly. "You deserved better." Her eyes lifted to his, searching for pity, for judgment. She found neither. Instead, she found concern, real and unfiltered. Something shifted inside her chest, a crack where light tried to enter. He glanced at the empty chair beside her, at the untouched place setting. "Someone failed you tonight," he said. "But that does not mean you failed." The words settled into her like warmth after cold. She had spent her life believing rejection meant truth, that being left behind meant she was less. For the first time, someone challenged that belief. Across the room, the restaurant continued. Laughter, conversation, life. But at that table, time slowed. Two people from different worlds, finally looking at each other. He did not know it yet, but standing up had changed his life. She did not know it yet, but being seen would change hers. And neither of them would ever return to who they were before this moment. The waiter returned carrying menus, unaware that something fragile and powerful had already begun to form at the table. She stared down at the leather cover as if it were written in a language she did not understand. Every number felt loud. Every price felt impossible. He noticed. Of course he noticed. "Order anything you like," he said quietly. "Tonight you do not have to think about money." The words made her chest tighten. She shook her head gently. "I cannot." "Please," he said. "Just for tonight, let me take care of this." She hesitated. $5 pressed like a secret against her palm, inside her purse. $5 that represented survival, not comfort. "Call me by my first name," he added softly. "Just for tonight." Saying his name felt strange on her tongue, like crossing a bridge that had always been forbidden. She whispered it once. Testing. Careful. Something changed in his expression, as if he had been waiting to hear it. The conversation started slowly. Awkward at first. Two people learning how to exist without labels. He asked about her day. No one had ever asked her that and truly listened. She answered honestly. About the long hours. The early mornings. The silence. She told him about her family. Her mother. Her brother. The way every paycheck was divided before she even touched it. He listened without interrupting. Without glancing at his phone. Without distraction. When she spoke about baking, her voice softened. As if warmth lived there. She told him how she baked for neighbors. For strangers. For comfort. He felt something shift again. A realization that this woman carried more life than most rooms he had ever entered. He told her about the emptiness of his success. About boardrooms filled with voices that never spoke truth. About nights spent alone in a house too big for one person. She looked at him with curiosity, not admiration. With interest, not awe. No one had ever looked at him that way. Food arrived. Plates placed gently between them. Steam rose carrying the scent of comfort and possibility. They ate slowly. The world outside the table faded. She laughed once. Soft and surprised. As if she had forgotten the sound belonged to her. He smiled at that sound. A real smile. The kind that reached his eyes. Then the question slipped out of her before fear could stop it. Why did you come over? The honesty in her voice caught him off guard. He paused. Because he could not lie. Because I could not stand to watch you walk away, thinking you were invisible, he said. Because I have been blind for years. The words hung between them. Heavy. True. Her throat tightened. No one had ever admitted seeing her this way. The restaurant lights reflected in her eyes. For the first time they looked bright, not tired. Something dangerous bloomed in that space. Hope. He felt it too. And fear. Because he knew hope changed everything. When they stood to leave, the night air felt different. Cooler. Sharper. Outside, the city hummed. Unaware of the quiet shift that had just occurred. He walked her to her car. Not touching. Not rushing. Thank you, she said. For tonight. It was nothing, he replied. But they both knew it was everything. As she drove away, her hands shook on the steering wheel. Her heart raced with confusion and warmth. Behind her, he stood watching the car disappear, realizing that for the first time in his life, money had not saved anyone. Seeing had. Sleep did not come easily that night. For either of them. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every word. Every look. Every moment where she felt visible. It frightened her. Because feeling seen meant having something to lose. The next morning, the mansion felt different. Larger. Quieter. She arrived early as always. The sun barely rising. The floor still cold beneath her shoes. She told herself nothing had changed. She told herself it had only been kindness. A single evening of compassion. But her hands trembled as she worked. And her thoughts drifted. When she entered the kitchen, she froze. He was there. Not rushing. Not on the phone. Standing by the counter, holding a cup of coffee like an ordinary man. Good morning, he said. The sound of her name from his mouth made her heart stumble. Would you join me for a moment, he asked. Before you start. Every instinct told her to say no. To retreat into safety. To hide behind routine. But something stronger pulled her forward. They sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. Steam rose from their cups. Morning light spilled through the windows. This space had always been for staff. Never for conversation. Yet here they were. He asked if she had slept. She smiled weakly and shook her head. Neither had he. They spoke quietly. Carefully, as if the walls might hear, she told him about her early mornings, the bus rides, the weight of responsibility she carried. He told her about meetings that never ended, about decisions that felt meaningless, about the loneliness that followed him everywhere. Their worlds collided gently, not with noise, but with understanding. In the days that followed, a pattern formed. Careful, hidden, they spoke after her shift ended, sometimes in the kitchen, sometimes in the garden as the sun set. He learned she laughed with her whole body, that she listened deeply, that she noticed small things others missed. She learned he was not cold, only guarded, that beneath his discipline lived a man starving for authenticity. The danger crept in quietly, a glance held too long, a smile shared when no one was watching. The staff noticed changes. Whispers followed. She began to fear what this meant. For her job, for her heart. One evening she pulled away. "This cannot continue," she said. "This will cost us both." He looked at her. Not angry, not defensive. Honest. "I know," he said. "But pretending this is nothing would cost us more." The words settled heavy between them. For the first time she realized something terrifying. She was no longer invisible. And once you are seen, the world starts watching too. The days began to blur together. Not because they were the same, but because each one carried something new. She started to notice how the mansion no longer felt empty. Not when he was nearby. Not when his presence followed her through quiet halls. They did not touch. They did not cross lines. At least not the visible ones. But everything else changed. He lingered longer in rooms she cleaned. Asked questions that had nothing to do with work. Listened when she spoke. She found herself waiting for those moments. Hating herself for it. Needing them anyway. At night they spoke on the phone. Soft voices in the dark. Sharing pieces of themselves that had never been spoken. She told him about the fear that followed her everywhere. The fear of being replaceable. Disposable. He told her about the weight of expectations. The loneliness of power. The pressure to always be untouchable. With each confession, the distance between them shrank. Then came the first crack. A staff member saw them talking in the garden too late in the evening. Another noticed the way his voice softened when he said her name. Whispers moved faster than truth. She felt it immediately. The shift. The tension. She began to pull away. Answering briefly. Avoiding eye contact. One evening she tried to end it. "This is dangerous," she said. "People are watching." He did not argue. He simply listened. "I know," he said. "And I will protect you." The word protect frightened her. She had protected herself her entire life, depending on no one. That night she cried quietly in her apartment, angry at herself, at hope, at wanting more. The next morning she arrived to work early again, determined to restore boundaries. But something was waiting. A folded envelope placed neatly on the kitchen table. Inside was a note written in his handwriting. "I see you. I respect you. And I will never use my power against you." Those words shook her more than any declaration of love could have. Because respect was rare. Because safety was precious. From that moment, something irreversible happened. She stood taller. Spoke with more confidence. She was still the maid. But she was no longer small. He noticed the chain. Admired it. Then the world intervened. A photo appeared online. Blurry. Taken from a distance. Two figures. A man recognizable. A woman beside him. Speculation exploded. The line they had tried so hard not to cross was crossed by someone else. She saw the image late at night, her heart pounding. This was no longer private, no longer safe. She knew what was coming, and for the first time since being seen, she wondered if invisibility had been easier. The first headline appeared before sunrise. She saw it on her phone while sitting on the edge of her bed. Her hands went cold. The words were cruel, speculative, hungry. A powerful man, a young maid, a story shaped to destroy. By the time she arrived at work, the mansion no longer felt quiet. It felt alert, as if the walls themselves were listening. Staff avoided her eyes. Whispers stopped when she entered a room. Doors closed a little faster than before. She kept her head down, focused on her work, trying to disappear back into the safety of invisibility. But invisibility was no longer possible. He found her in the hallway near the back stairs. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with something fierce. "I am so sorry," he said. "I should have protected you better." She shook her head. "This was not your fault." But the world did not care about fault. By noon the calls started. Board members, lawyers, people who spoke in consequences. She heard raised voices through closed doors, felt the tension tightening like a rope. That evening he asked her to sit with him. Not in the kitchen, not in secret, in his study. She hesitated. Every step felt like walking into fire. The room was large, dark, heavy with power. He stood by the window, looking out at the city. "They are demanding explanations," he said. "They want me to end this." The word "this" cut deeply. She swallowed. "Then maybe you should." He turned sharply, pain flashing across his face. "Do not say that. You will lose everything," she whispered. "Your work, your position, your world." She looked down. "I have already lost things too." Friends stopped calling. The community center where she volunteered asked her not to return. Strangers online called her names that burned. She had been humiliated before. But this was different. This was public, permanent. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I can handle them, but I will not let them destroy you." She laughed softly. "Bitter? They already are." That night she packed a small bag, just in case. The next day the pressure intensified. An emergency meeting was scheduled. His presence demanded. Her name whispered. She felt sick. He asked her to meet him one last time that evening, just to talk. She arrived ready to end it, to sacrifice the one thing that had made her feel alive. But when she looked at him, she saw something she had never seen before. Resolve. "They think this is a scandal," he said. "They think I am confused. They think you are temporary." She waited. He met her eyes. "I am about to prove them wrong." Her heart raced, fear and hope colliding. "I am done hiding," he said. "Tomorrow I will tell them everything." She realized then. This was no longer about being seen. This was about standing in the light. And once you step into the light, there is no way back. The room was filled before he even arrived. Cameras, voices, people waiting for a performance. She stood behind the curtain, her hands shaking. Every instinct told her to run, to disappear, to save herself. He stood beside her, calm in a way that frightened her. Not because he was unafraid, but because he was certain. When they stepped forward, the noise intensified. Questions shouted, accusations disguised as curiosity. He raised his hand, and the room slowly fell silent. "I will speak once," he said, "and then I will leave." He did not look at the cameras. He looked at her. For years, I have been introduced as a millionaire, a leader, a symbol of success. He paused. But none of that tells you who I am. A murmur moved through the room. I have spent my life building something I was expected to protect. Not something I chose. Not something that made me whole. Then he said her name. She felt the sound of it move through her like electricity. This woman is not my maid. She is not a mistake. She is not a scandal. He took a breath. She is the first person who ever saw me without wanting anything in return. The room shifted. Phones lowered. Eyes widened. I did not rescue her. He continued. She reminded me that I was drowning. Her chest tightened. Tears burned. I was planning to walk away long before she entered my life. He said, "She did not take anything from me. She gave me the courage to leave." The final words landed like thunder. Today I am stepping down. Gasps. Shouts. Chaos. Effective immediately, I will resign my position. I will give up my title. My authority. Someone asked why. He answered without hesitation. Because I refuse to live a life where love is a liability. He turned to her then. In front of everyone. I choose you. Not because you saved me, but because you walked beside me. The silence was deafening. She realized something in that moment. She was not standing in his shadow. She was standing with him. When they left together, cameras followed. Questions chased. But she did not feel small. For the first time, humiliation had transformed into power. And the world had just witnessed a man give up everything. For something real. The world did not end when he walked away. It only changed shape. The days after the announcement were loud and heavy. Voices everywhere. Opinions without mercy. Strangers deciding who deserved happiness. But something unexpected happened in the quiet moments. Peace. They moved out of the mansion together, not in shame but in choice. The gates closed behind them without ceremony. No cameras. No applause. Just two people walking into an uncertain future. They rented a small place not far from the city. Sunlight filled the kitchen in the mornings. The air smelled like possibility. He learned how to make coffee without machines that cost more than cars. She laughed when he burned toast. He laughed when flour covered the floor. Money no longer decided every moment. Time did. She worked days and nights, chasing a dream she had carried in silence. A small bakery. Nothing fancy. Just warmth. Just honesty. He never offered to buy it for her. He never tried to save her. Instead, he stood beside her. Washing dishes. Waking early. Listening. When the bakery opened, the sign was simple. Her name. Nothing else. The neighborhood noticed. Not because of who she loved, but because of how she made people feel. Bread fresh from the oven. Smiles without judgment. A place where people were welcome. He began teaching part-time at a local college. History. Stories. Lessons that mattered. Students listened. Because he spoke from truth, not authority. Sometimes people recognized him. Sometimes they did not. He preferred when they did not. At night they walked home together. Hands brushing. Laughing quietly. No one bowed. No one stared. She still remembered the night of humiliation. The $5. The tears. But it no longer defined her. It had transformed her. One evening months later, he knelt in the bakery kitchen. The smell of bread still warm. Flour on his hands. The ring was simple. Not loud. Not heavy. He asked her to choose him, not as a rescue, not as an escape, but as a partner. She said yes before fear could speak. Their wedding was small, real, surrounded by people who mattered. No headlines, no spectacle, just love. And when they danced under soft lights, he whispered something only she could hear. You were never invisible. I just learned how to see. Somewhere in the city, a woman once humiliated with $5 in her wallet now owned her life, and a man who once owned everything finally belonged to himself. This is how lives change. Not with power, not with money,